One of the first ever bikes we had at MotoDeal was the previous generation MV Agusta Brutale 800, a bike that had beautiful Italian styling but had some quirks to it. Today we have the new and improved model, which still has the same beautiful Italian styling but with a whole much more features. So in this episode of Beyond the Ride, let's find out if the 2021 MV Agusta Brutale 800 RR SCS is more than just all show, but if it can get up and go. The bike is powered by a 798cc dual overhead cam liquid-cooled 4-stroke 3-cylinder engine that punches out 140 horsepower at 12,300 RPM and 86 Nm of torque at 10,250 RPM. Stopping power is provided by 320mm dual floating discs up front and a 220mm disc at the rear. Of course, you got the Brembo calipers. I do have a quick story about the braking system of the bike. The second day I had it, I took it to Lake Calaraya, and on the way home, I found myself in an emergency brake situation. A tricycle made a U-turn without really looking, and I was going about 40 kilometers per hour, not very fast. But I did grab the brake a little bit harder than I typically would, the front brake. And when I did that, the rear tire did lift a little bit, but it went back down right away, and I was able to maneuver my way through around the hazard. Now, apparently, MV Agusta and Continental designed the bike to be able to do that, to be able to lift the rear tire just enough so that the front brake and the tires will be able to grip and bite properly, and then when it comes back down, you're able to maneuver your way through the hazard. Keeping bumps at bay, you get fully adjustable upside down Marzocchi fork up front and a fully adjustable Sachs single shock at the back. For the tires and wheels, you get 120/70 up front and a 180/55 at the rear, both on 17s. You get full LEDs up front and at the back, which in my opinion all modern bikes should come equipped with. This bike also has daytime running and cornering lights. The bike also comes equipped with an adjustable steering damper, which is found right underneath the dash. It's a nice feature to have because when you're going at speed on the expressway, you want it harder. Now, once you exit and find yourself in some twisties, you can adjust it on the fly. A couple of clicks to the left, it becomes softer. The dash of the previous generation Brutale 800 didn't do the bike justice. In fact, it was borderline useless. The new model comes equipped with a 5.5-inch TFT dash, and it is awesome. You can see it under direct sunlight, and you can control everything on it. It's got navigation, launch control, front lift control, cruise control, the different riding modes, Bluetooth to connect to your phone, and the MV Ride app. I mean, it's just so much better than the previous model's dash. Speaking of the app, let's check the usability. So you can download the MV Agusta Ride app from the Apple or Google Play Store. And then you can start up the bike. So that's the icon of the app. And once you open it up, it's connected to the bike, as you can see. And you can adjust the different riding modes. You can even make customized modes as well. You can adjust the engine response, the engine brake, max torque. It's nice. You can check out the safety features with the traction control, front lift control. It is pretty useful. Now, the aesthetics are pretty much the same from the previous generation, which I absolutely loved. It's muscular and pretty. I love the attention to detail. Now, something like this. There's a little cover behind the rear indicator. Now, I thought the one on the other side came off, but really it just comes on one side. It's there to protect the indicators because the pipes are right there. It also has this little window down here to show off the clutch, which Ducati kind of made popular. And speaking of the clutch, that's actually an important part of this bike. The fuel tank capacity is just a little over 16 liters, and you can get about 16 kilometers per liter, which isn't fantastic, but because of the type of bike it is, I can live with that. It's got a dry weight of 175 kilograms, which makes it extremely manageable. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we go out on a ride. The seat height is 830 millimeters, which is a little bit on the tall side. I am 5'6" with a 763 millimeter inseam, and that is the situation. Yeah, I know. I heard myself say it too. Inseam millimeters, height 5'6". Well, we are in the Philippines, right? It's kind of how we measure stuff here. We are confused. It's like we say we can get a pint of ice cream and a liter of ice cream as well. Yeah, weird. Let's do a quick sound test. That's the screaming triple of MV Agusta. It does sound a little bit muted for the type of bike it is because of the Euro compliance that MV Agusta has to follow. However, Motostrada does distribute the, well, let's just say louder pipes if you want to be a little bit more bastos. Another thing that makes this bike extra special is the SCS, or the Smart Clutch System, which in essence kind of makes it seem like a semi-automatic. You really won't be needing the clutch much once you start going. Let me show you how it works. So let's start up the bike. And as you are about to see, it's on neutral, right? Typical. Now, what the SCS can do, you can be on first. It's on first gear. And if you see my hand right here, I'm gonna let go of the clutch. Look at that. So that's gonna be really useful when you're on the traffic light. You don't need to pull back the clutch and you're just waiting for the light to turn green. And the bike's not really moving. So it's a nice little system that MV Agusta did with the Brutale 800 RR SCS.
The riding position is pretty much the same as the old one. It's pretty aggressive but not quite backbreaking. The pegs are a little rear set but not too high. You find yourself closer to the front of the bike. The handlebars are quite high and wide. So the air goes are fine. It's surprisingly more comfortable than expected. Speaking of comfort, the seat still has the same sleek design, but it's infinitely more comfortable than the previous generation. It's got memory foam. Memory foam, yeah, you know, like the ones that you sleep on in the bed or your pillows. It's got that, but it still has that nice look to it. Now, I went on a few long rides on the bike and I didn't have any issues whatsoever with the seat. Unlike the previous Brutale, which really felt like plywood with leather wrapped around it. This is super, super comfortable. Riding to Calaraya from Makati with the guys from Motorcycle Cinema. By the way, you can check them out on YouTube and on Facebook. Their content is absolutely fantastic and I hope to collaborate with them sometime soon. Now, I had no issues with the riding position and the comfort of the bike. It was so much better than I thought it would be. It's funny because everybody was asking me if I was uncomfortable because it was kind of a long ride. But honestly, I wasn't. You know, the position of the bike, the ergonomics, it kind of reminds me of the Street Triple of Triumph or the F900R of BMW or even the KTM Duke 790. Those are kind of the ergonomics that you're playing around with this Brutale 800 RR SCS. Well, there's still no fuel gauge. I get it. It's got race bike DNA and it's really works well in the track, and those bikes really typically don't have fuel gauges. Fine, I understand that. But honestly, most people who would buy this bike, I think, would be using it on the road and using it for rides like going out of town a little bit or just going for the morning breakfast, morning coffee run and whatnot. And in my opinion, those people would prefer to have a fuel gauge on their bike. And by the way, the clutch, when you pull it back, it's a little stiff, it's a little hard. So I'm glad I don't need to use it that often. The SCS, I'm not sure. I still don't know if it's, I mean, we've seen this kind of technology on off-road bikes, on dirt bikes out there. But this is really the first time I'm seeing it on a road bike. Now, the first time I was using the bike and I was playing around with the SCS trying to get a better feel for it, I realized something. I realized that the engine brake of the bike wasn't really there. Like, it's, once you let go of the clutch, once you close the throttle, you're just kind of like coasting. You don't feel the engine brake. So I actually contacted the guys from Motostrada and asked them, hey, is there something with the settings that I'm not doing right? Because I don't feel the engine brake as much as I want to. I have to downshift to be able to feel the engine brake. And they told me, Sergino, you can adjust the engine brake on the app. I said, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. So you can actually do a couple of adjustments to the way that you want to ride the bike. And sure enough, when I adjusted it, it rode just the way I liked it. It is such a nimble bike. It's so light, and the short wheelbase, it just makes you want to go on turns all day, every day. It's really fun on the twistings, and it kind of just begs for more. It's really enjoyable. I have to say that I remember enjoying the old Brutale, the previous generation Brutale, but I was a little bit, the little quirks of that bike I wasn't too happy with, like the comfort, the display on the dash and whatnot. But this one, it's really got everything that I kind of wanted that bike to have. And I'm glad MV Agusta did it for this new generation Brutale. I honestly didn't feel that much heat riding around in the city. Now, sure, the traffic wasn't as bad as it normally is around Metro Manila, but I had a normal city riding experience, and the bike was fine. Now, I would be really curious to know what it would feel like in the normal stop-and-go gridlock of Metro Manila. When the bike was dropped off at my place, I thought it was going to be a similar riding experience as the old one. Nothing to write home about. I couldn't have been more wrong. The things I loved about the old one, they kept. The complaints I had about the previous generation Brutale, they fixed. Now, I wonder if MV Agusta watches MotoDeal, because I'm convinced they do.
The updates on the 2021 MV Agusta Brutale 800 RR SCS makes the bike infinitely better than its predecessor. It's more comfortable, it's got more tech, it's got more riding aids, and they kept the design as aggressively gorgeous as it once was. It used to be a little bit more style. Now, the bike definitely has substance. But all of that comes at a price. You can get the RR SCS version for 1.2 million Philippine pesos. Yes, it is a little steep, but I guess that's a price you pay for motorcycle art. For more information about this bike and other MCs out there, log on to www.motodeal.com.ph. This has been Gene Rufino. Hope you guys enjoyed going beyond the ride.